Hello, everybody. This is Asha Saxena, founder and CEO of Women Leaders in Data and AI. I'm super excited to be here having a conversation about an important topic. We all leaders in data, AI, and digital. And of course, the security and privacy becomes critical as we think about all these technologies. But how are we consciously building our teams, our companies, and how we are impacting the business leaders look up to the data leaders, the technology leaders to make sure they deliver the value? And how are we partnering together to make sure we deliver what we promise, what we can optimize and expand on? So here we have our two guests, Craig and Nick. I'm so excited to be here with you and to really have this conversation about how do we actually build our team and how do we actually make sure that we continue creating the impact we set forward to doing so every year. Before we get started, I'd love to make sure that we introduce ourselves to the audience. Craig, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Asha. Craig Kapper. I'm the Executive Vice President with Irvine Technology Corporation, otherwise known as ITC. ITC is a woman-owned, WeBank certified, and now GSA approved provider of staffing and technology solutions with a large focus of what we do is in the cybersecurity space. So as we're talking about building and assembling dynamic teams and diverse teams, as a woman-owned firm in heavy partnership with Nick, I'm excited to be here today to talk about this topic.
Thank you so much, Craig. And I think I'm curious to hear so much more about how is it you are consciously building your teams, especially when you have your leadership, your CEO is a female leader. But before we jump into that, Nick, let's start with your introduction.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Asha. My name's Nick Ritter. I am the CISO of WorldPay. We're a large payments processor company, so we do about a billion transactions a week in payments and credit card transactions, about $2.7 trillion of payments passed through our systems on an annual basis. And a lot of the biggest brands that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, we back in the payments processing for.
Listen, that's a big business. Payment processing overall is a huge business, and having the right technology partner, having the right infrastructure becomes really critical as you think about the business operations in that world. And lots of regulations, when you are working with money, lots of regulations. But as we on this specific topic of really women in technology, having diverse teams, it's so critical that we think about what's going on in the world today. You know, Personally, I run the organization called Women Leaders in Data and AI, and we've recently done a study with KPMG where we actually researched of the impact of businesses when you have diverse teams, when you have the women leaders. But what we saw in our study was disturbing results that a lot of women in the mid careers are either quitting or moving out of technology field. And I'm curious to hear, Nick, what are you seeing? You're in the security world, and women in technology in general, is challenging for them to begin with. What are you observing, and what does the landscape looks like from where you're sitting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things that I see in my experience. The first is overall cybersecurity is a field where there are way more jobs and positions than there are people. So I think the last 3 years thing I looked at, there were something like 1.7, 1.8 cyber jobs for every person in cyber. So you really have to, you have to be able to attract talent. You have to be able to retain talent. And those are critical to your success. Otherwise, you're just constantly going to be behind the eight ball in getting people in your organization. So a big part of that is tapping to fill all of our roles. We're going to have to tap in the industry what I would call non-traditional people in the sense that, um, not the started school, studied computer science, studied math, studied STEM, and migrated through incident response and or audit and became cyber people. We're going to have to find our cyber talent in other places other than the traditional CS, MIS grads. So that's one thing. The second piece of that is women are generally underrepresented in technology. As a subset of technology, they're way underrepresented in cyber. And even worse, they're way, way underrepresented in leadership. So one of the things that my organization is doing and my leaders is we're being, to combat both of those, we're being very intentional about seeking out different candidates and different elements of diversity to fill those roles. Again, seeking out the non-traditional, making sure that we have representation in our leadership that looks like the talent that we're trying to attract. And so we're being very intentional about that. We're not just posting job and waiting for candidates to fall into our lap. We're actively pursuing. So that's one of the big things that we're doing. We're also, I kind of have a philosophy of I want to hire the person, not the background or experience. Now, there are times when I absolutely am going for specific sets of experience or specific skill sets that have to be demonstrated in order to fill a particular position. But the lion's share of positions within my organization require people to adapt and learn the nuances of the business and the way the transactions work and stuff like that anyway. So it's a little bit, unless I'm pulling somebody from another payments company, there's a lot of learning anyway. So if I hire the right kind of person, their experience and background is not necessarily the most important thing, right? So it's more their aptitude and their capability and their ability to learn. So hire the person, not necessarily the resume, is kind of the way that I've done it. And those two things have really helped us build out a specifically a leadership team that I think is a little bit more representative of the population as opposed to, I think it's something like 11, 12% of leadership in cybersecurity are women specifically, and under 20% are minorities. I have a team that's a little bit, I would say the numbers are a little bit better than that. And we're, every day trying to cultivate and find new leaders. And we have to, because we've got so many open positions and so many, uh, just such a lack of talent that we have to be cultivating that on a daily basis.
I love what you said about, thinking out of the box. Craig, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the stats, they're not good and they're getting worse. So 26% of all IT workers today are women. It's less in cybersecurity. Nationally, less than 10% of women hold an executive level leadership role in technology. And 55% of women leave technology as a career by the age of 35. There's a few reasons behind that, but it's lack of mentorship, lack of career paths, because there's not women enough in technology. So women look at that, speaking generalities, they look at that and they say, where is my path? I don't see it ahead of me. And then a lack of investment. The other part, which is something that nobody talks about, is that women exit the workforce a high percentage when they have children. And technology is a particularly difficult field to come back to because of the rapid changes of technology, keeping up with trends. So we're doing a number of things to focus in on that as a strategic provider. We run a women in leadership program designed to help director, senior director, and VP level women with training, cohort benefits, and mentorship opportunities so that they can perform in their career and get the tools required to continue to advance. That's something that Nick has been a huge advocate for, and the importance of investing in women that are in technology and helping them to elevate is only going to attract more women to the organization. The other trend that's interesting is right now, 18% of people enrolled in STEM programs for technology are women. That's down from 21% just a couple years ago. So it's a field that struggles to attract women at all spectrums. And to Nick's point, um, unemployment for cyber folks, I take cybersecurity engineers, is 0.3%. It's virtually full employment. So how do you attract more diverse workers or qualified folks, period, to the field is a real challenge. And, that's something that Nick and I are working together with what we do at WorldPay, but also we work with every one of our clients to really wrap our arms around the women in technology to give them their tools. So
Yeah, that's a really good point, Greg, because DEI over the last year or so has gotten kind of poo-pooed in the media, right? You don't hear a lot of positive things about DEI. The reality in cybersecurity is there aren't enough middle-aged white bald men to fill all the roles. It's not even close, right? Like the number of people who looks like me would probably fill about 25% of all the cyber roles that exist in the organization. So I have to go mine people that don't look like me in order to fill all my roles. The reality is I have to set up um, a lot of the other programs like mentorship, like diversity programs or things that you would normally classify under a DEI movement in order to attract the people in that don't look like me. And so it's not that, trust me, it's not altruistic that we're doing it. I mean, I'm a big supporter. I have two daughters, so I'm a really big supporter of women in technology and women advancement. My oldest daughter studies data science in school, and hopefully she graduates next year in a really big kick-ass job. But the reality is it's self-preservation, right? If I don't have a DEI program that is functioning, I can't get talent in to fill all the roles necessary to defend all of my company and all of my customers and transactions. So it is absolutely self-preservation. I don't really care about the politics of it after that.
yeah, it's interesting because both Nick and I have daughters that are in technology. My eldest daughter just changed her major to a cybersecurity major, and she was so excited. But she said very clearly, in my classes, that she's one of three people in her classes right now that are girls. And she looks at it the way I look at it. It's great career opportunity for her. She's going to be a diamond in the rough, which is wonderful. Um, but it's also about how this community helps each other out. So Nick has a very successful woman who runs the red team there. And, we're in partnership to help onboard some resources to grow her team. And I was talking about that my daughter is now going to be a cyber major, and she agreed unannounced, or unexpected, I should say, to have a conversation with my daughter about her career and the path and the way forward so that she can be set up for the most amount of success. And that's the type of thing that we have to encourage. It's not just mentorship, it's peer to peer conversations, it's mentorship all the way down to who's at the entry level or the attraction of new resources into this field. Women specifically won't happen.
Right.
So I think it's wonderful because it's very clear you're promoting that culture throughout your organization, but it spreads to the tech industry as a whole, which is very clear, especially with this particular person I'm talking about. That's really well done.
I have to smile. I'm smiling here when you guys are talking about your daughters and how you're promoting. And I think that this is what the world needs is, you know, you know, and Nick, you said it's not altruistic. It is good for business. So you have to think about how bringing diversity, women, minorities together can only make you stronger. If Nick, everybody looked like you or everybody looked like me, or, we all hired people who just look like us, where would be the, creativity, innovation, because we all will think like one. And so I think the fact that as a leader, as a true leader, you recognize the power in diversity and that power brings bottom line revenue to the organization, it's good for business. And it is so disappointing. And Nick, you were talking about, and Craig, you were talking about the numbers going down. And in our study, which we did recently, it came out last month, which was about KPMG, Revelio Labs, and Wilda did it together. And what we saw that numbers are going down. Women are actually leaving the technology field or are not taking the leadership role. And I think both of you mentioned the role model. It is so important to have the role models who actually can show that they can be examples. And what we've done, and I think, Craig, I have to say kudos to you because not, a lot of companies think about it, but actually, walking the talk is really important. The fact that you have to build programs around women leadership to make sure that you keep encouraging women to continue being in the leadership role. What we've done is at Wilda, we have a speaker series and we have our members who are former CIO of federal government. We have CIO and CDOs of FBI and CIA. The senior women from MasterCard and L'Oreal and Chevron who come on the speaker series and talk about their journey. And I think that's really the power when the younger women can see, younger men and women can see role models and examples that you can do it too. You don't have to pick family or career. You can have it all if you have the supportive environment. If you
Yeah.
have family that supports you, the workforce that supports you, and the culture that you guys have been talking about.
Yeah, I tell you that there's a lot that can be done, not just in a company to company partnership, but we do a variety of programs to encourage this because it's necessary. Nick's point, companies will not survive unless they look at a variety of workers to come in that employee short field. So it's the Women in Leadership program that we've now fostered over 700 women who completed this program. 71% have gone on to actually get promoted within the companies that they already work at. So as a staffing, consulting, and solutions firm, we want to partner with companies so that the women on their teams grow. So very proud of what we've done there, but there's a lot of other things that we do. We run an Empower Her webinar series to bring
Nice.
people on to talk about their stories and give advice on how to grow and foster in their career. We run a podcast program that's hosted by our CEO, Nicole McMacken, one of the top podcasts in its space, where we bring on CIOs and CISOs to talk about what they're doing in this journey. We do a lot of just community introductions where we want to help anybody through our network. And that's something that Nick has been a huge advocate of. If somebody's at a director level and they're looking to become a senior director, can we get them in touch with one of our other clients to help give even a spot mentorship? It's just this community approach of elevating women has been a huge home run, and I appreciate that Nick is so wide open to that.
Having this conversation, I'm enlightened, and hopefully I'll get to meet you again across this path in some of the conferences or in the industry networking situations. And thank you, Nick and Craig, for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.